This is another little walk and talk. It's now the, what is it again, Sean?
End of April.
End of April. So we'll have a little walk around, paying a special attention to our grapes and our figs. So we'll start off just here. This is an arch. Can you see that, Sean?
Yeah.
Sean, now come closer because the volumes and the wind. So this is an arch. When you build an arch with any sort of fancy structure, you always want to use the two trees the same species and the same variety either side. Sean, come closer.
Dad, just let me go.
Otherwise it looks unbalanced. These are, as you can see there, these are Penryn Castle pears. So there'll be a pear arch, both of them the same. Why I've stopped here is, if we can come over, Sean, a bit closer. This time of the year the leaves are just breaking, and you can see these young leaves are really soft. They're always a bit yellow. They're really soft. There's no waxy protective coating. Ideal food if you're a horrible little insect. So this time of the year you're walking around all the time looking for, well, for example, for aphids. This one's clear at the moment. That's it. We'll go over here now, Sean. Okay. Here you can see this is a cherry fan we're building here. Cariad cherry. It's a cherry that we bred for some rich bloke in Carnarvon. Sean, come closer. And cherries invariably get cherry black fly this time of the year. We haven't got it yet, but these, again, this young sticky, because they've just broken out the buds, leaves, are what they go for. So this time of the year, look out for cherry black fly. If you put, look down here, Sean, if you put ant killer, this is pyrethrum, ant killer, the ants carry these bloody black fly up to the growing tips. So if you can stop the ants, you're halfway there. This is poison for them. You can also, for example, put a grease band around there. If you do use a grease band, you have to check that on a regular basis, because one little piece of grass, for example, blowing onto the sticky grease will stick there, and it will make a bridge for the ants, and then they will start transporting the black fly up to your growing tips. As another matter of interest, you can see around the outside of this fan, look over here, Sean, we've got two varieties of red fleshed apples. We've got more up the top, and we're actually breeding a variety that will do well in North Wales with red flesh inside. We will call it Gwyther Draig. Look that up if you dig them right. We will call it that. We think it will be on the market in a couple of years. We're still testing it. These were two of the parents. These. So there you go. Nice fan, nice red fleshed apples on the outside. Okay.
I'm a bit worried it's too windy, to be honest with you.
I know. Want to try?
Should we pause it and just see?
Okay. This tree here is a young Welsh perry tree called Gwaelog Red. And if we can look over here closer, Sean, you can see damage to the leaf. Here, you can see that leaf there, as it looks like big chomp marks out of it. This one is the same. someone's had a chomp, and these chomps on the outside of the leaf are very characteristic of vine weevils. Vine weevils out in your garden, out in your orchard here, are not a big deal, and I don't bother about it. If you get vine weevils in your polytunnels, then you've got serious problems. Very hard to get rid of because the horrible big fat white grubs eat the roots of your young trees, and we've had a couple of very serious infections, and what we did, we got a load of nematodes sent in the post, parasitic nematodes. You incorporate that in your soil, then these little, you buy them by the million, they get in between the carapace, in the little cracks of the vine weevil's exoskeleton, get in, then burrow into its flesh and then eat it alive. So that serves it right for eating our roots. Okay. Done them. Okay, so we're now in my nice conservatoire where I grow my grapes. There was a previous video about grapes that mentioned you plant the grape outside and then bring it in so you don't have to mess around watering it. And we grow them on our wires. This is our rod and bar method. As I said earlier on the other vid, the grape is naturally a climber. It will grow from the tips, climbing up some tree or other. So what we do is, to stop it growing from the tips, we take these rods down and we've just put them up. By pulling them down as the sap starts to flow, it encourages growth at the bottom. If we didn't do that, this would be bare wood. If we look here, look at this lovely clean bark. This lovely clean bark. That's me cleaning that up with a wire brush. It's really time consuming and really boring. You can pull it off with your knife as well, obviously. And that's mainly, we're doing that to stop scale insects. Back in the day, in like Victorian times, when you had about 20 gardeners to the acre, you'd have little Joey boys with their little wire brushes cleaning this off to prevent scale insects. What we do now is the best thing to do some of this, but you can put ant killer down, because ants again are carrying the scale insects, the little ones they call crawlers. The ants will transport them up to the juicy parts of your grape. So one of the things we do is stop the ants, and then the other things we can do, we could spray this. We could spray it when the leaves get bigger with a systemic insecticide. Not a very nice thing to do, obviously, but it's better than going to let Mr. Tesco's do it. But organically, we do it physically by removing the bark and squashing the little insects themselves. If we look over here, Sean, can you zoom in there where my knife is? This is a little branchlet that I missed, and you can see these things. They end up the size of wood lice. They never move. These are the females. They never move. They just sit there, sucking my sap. So I could squash these. You can see I'm squashing them. Or what I will probably do is just cut that little branchlet off, because I don't really need it, and just and give it to the chickens. Here you can see this is already, this branchlet here is producing fruit, isn't it? That's a bunch of grapes. To stop this thing growing all over the place, I just cut them back. That means all the nutrition going up this stem here will now go to fatten up my grapes. The books say you leave a couple of leaves after this bunch, but I normally just get rid of them because I don't want too many leaves in here. I'll have enough leaves anyway. And there's another one. See it there? There's a bunch of grapes. Get rid of that. There's one coming there. They're all over the place. This vine is in 3 pieces, or 4 pieces if you like. The root is outside. That means I haven't got to water it, and it's nice steady conditions in the soil. This will be my early crop because they're in the conservatory, which is triple glazed roof, double glazed sides and insulated floor. Outside there, Sean, can you just show outside? These ones are growing under this glass, just a glass canopy. It's warmer than the outside, but not as warm as here. So that will be my second crop. And if we can go outside now, Sean, and look up there, if we can see my balcony outside my bedroom, you can see those bits of the vine are in the wind and in the cold, so they're later again. So by growing these grapes in 3 different locations, if you like, although it is the same vine, it extends my season of usage. And some of those last ones up there, I would cut the bunches off and put them in a jar of water, and they would the stalk in a jar of water, and that will keep them for another few weeks. I'm extending my season of use. Okay. Right. So I'll talk now a little bit about figs. If you go to Mexico, for example, and you go down some canyon in the desert, up on the side of the canyon walls, you'll often get a crack, and that would naturally get full of dirt and stuff. Often you will get figs growing in these cracks on canyon walls. They tumble over. The figs will grow. They love it there, lovely hot sun. And they will grow and they will grow until suddenly the root will fill up that crack. And when the fig can grow no more, it will panic and it will produce fruit. It will become fruitful. When anything's stressed or about to die, they think of reproduction. Bit like when, if you're a condemned man on your final night, you want they give you a woman, don't they? Don't know about that. I don't know. Put me off my stroke a bit personally, but I've seen it on the cowboy movies, Sean, so it must be true. So when things are stressed and they think they're going to die, they will reproduce. So with a fig, we try and emulate that situation where the roots are all crushed together. This fig here, we're growing in a tub. I think this is a cut-off rubbish bin with holes underneath, obviously, and it's only a couple of 3 years old probably, and you can see already it's filling up in there and it's already producing. Can you see that little embryo fig there? This will be our first fig off of this particular plant. This is an interesting one actually. It's an experimental one. This is growing down in Bangor by the chip shop, by the Beach Road chip shop, and hopefully we'll drive down there in the next day or so, and I'll show you where this thing grows. I've never seen anything like it growing out of a concrete wall. If you don't do this, constrict your roots, what you'd normally do is grow it in a pot, or if it's growing in the ground, traditionally you have concrete paving slabs, 2 foot by 2 foot, make them into a box, put a load of rubble at the bottom, so that would constrict the roots. And always keeping your eye on it, because it will try and often you'll see them flip a root out and take off. If we look at my fig over here, Sean, can you get that? Growing by the side of the house there, that thing is about 10 years old, and that is the first time it's ever produced. You can see the young figlets growing there. We'll now walk over to the base of that and I'll explain why. So this monster, another one of my mistakes. I planted it here. When I built this house, this was just scraped bare with a JCB. It's just rock. So I thought, I don't need a fig box to constrict the roots. The fact that there's no soil will do that for me. But I've done this quite a few times. I was proved wrong yet again, and we've ended up with a monster that it's now about 10 years, don't fall over the edge, Sean. It's about 10 years old, and it's producing fruit for the first time, as opposed to in its second year, that one over there with the constricted roots is producing. If you look down there, look at that, Sean. It's chucked out a root there. It's as thick as your leg. But it will produce. If you go to Greece, for some reason in Greece, don't ask me why, this is how they grow their fig trees. They're literally trees. They've got trunks this big around and big monsters. If you tour around Europe, every country has different pruning techniques. I don't know why, but they do. Quite interesting. So here's a fig. Lots of young figs at the top. Nothing down on a lot of these branches. So these things here that are now barren, what I'll do in June, I'll cut them back, and then they will produce 2 branches, and with luck that will double my fruit production. All figs bleed like grapevines bleed when you cut them. You can get special stuff to stop them bleeding, but I never bother. They stop them bleeding. They don't bleed that much. It can look a bit disturbing. Don't worry about it. There we go. Okay, so the reason we've come here is not to buy some chips, unfortunately. It's to look at this fig tree. Look, can you zoom in there, Sarah? You can see it's growing out of the wall, or they've built the wall around it. It's really old. What on earth it's doing here, I've no idea. How it got here, I've no idea. But it's really growing well. It's really prolific. Look at all these figs. Its roots are in the beach, which is salt water. If we look down here, look where I'm standing, apart from this bloody duck shit, look where I'm standing, there's seaweed. There's a lot of the branches down here have been killed with the sea at high tide. So I've never known a fig like it. They're fantastic figs, and hopefully we will start growing these in a year or so's time. There we go. Thanks, Sarah. Come nearer. Ready? This is a little cherry tree. You can see I've put ant killer at the bottom to minimise my cherry black fly. And you can see there's not lots of, it's already set some nice little cherries. Can you get them in, Sean? Those little I'll bring you one over. Nice little cherries. There's one less. That's one of yours. This tree, I don't know why cherries do this, they get stuck. You end up with big clusters of blossom and cherries at the end, but they won't grow. So what I should have done in the early spring as the sap started to flow was cut that off like there and to encourage that upward facing bud to grow, to give it more growth and more vigour. But yet again, I've forgotten to do it, and now I've got a bunch of cherries at the end. The tree's not going to grow, but I'm too cheap to chuck them away. So that's me being not very good, I'm afraid. So if your cherry gets like this, don't be a cheapskate like me. Go to Tesco's and chop them back like that. Okay? Okay. This is another one of our mother trees for where we're breeding our own red fleshed cherry. And you can see it has red blossom, red leaves and red flesh fruit. So we're breeding from this. On a previous video, I think a walk and talk one, one of my youthful helpers had strimmed it and had ring barked it basically. And I realised that something was wrong because it was starting to throw suckers up from below the graft. And then we grafted one of these suckers to bridge that dead area. And if you can see here the graft, this one particular one has taken. I'll remove these leaves. So you keep removing any growth on the bridge, and that will eventually grow into, well, it already has grown into there, and that will carry nutrients from the root system up to the trunk. This will soon thicken up really, really quickly. And you can see here, look, it's all busted bark. So there's a bridge graft that's taken. Over here, this tree, this thing here, was originally either a crab apple or perhaps a pip that someone sat on top of the bonk, had thrown an apple core over. So whatever the case, it's a wilding, and this wilding is producing loads and loads of suckers all over the place. See around here, indicating that something's wrong, or it isn't what shall we say a proper grafted fruit tree. All grafted trees are on rootstocks that don't sucker. So if you see suckers coming up from around your tree, have a close look, because it's indicative of something. There you go. There's another little quick one in passing. I have to shout because it's windy. Look at the top of that tree. The top of that tree is a Devonshire apple called Golden Knob. Very tiny fruit, this sort of size. What posh ladies would have had after a 6-course meal. Delicious and lovely flavour, but you can see small flowers indicate small fruit, as opposed to at the bottom of this tree is a piece of that branch there is a piece of the original Bramley tree that it was grafted onto, and you can see big flowers. So it just in passing, big flowers mean big fruit, little flowers mean little fruit. Okay. I'll have to shout here a bit because the wind's getting up and Billy is starting to bark. This tree here you can see is in full blossom. It's an unpruned tree, I don't bother with it, but I just love it for its thick blossom, as you can see. And now it's covered in bees from next door's hives. Earlier in the year, we let the grass on the orchard floor grow, and if you look over there, Sean, you can see a patch of dandelions. Prior to just recently, the whole place was a carpet of dandelions. Dandelions, the nectar of dandelions has 80% sugar, and bees love it. Pretty apple blossom only has 50% sugar. Given the choice, bees would always rather go to your dandelions. So I let the dandelions grow. Once these blossoms come out, I then trim all the dandelions. It means the bees will come over here for their dandelions, but they haven't got any. Given that they've come here, they then go on to my fruit trees. So that's a good tip, to always use your dandelions in two ways. Bring them over, but then trim the flowers to force, if you like, the bees up onto your own trees. The tree behind this one with the pink blossom is a wild crabapple tree. All my trees that I grow are disease resistant, so I keep that big old crabapple tree because it's full of diseases. It's a really old tree full of disease, so thereby I can test my own trees. I can see whether my trees catch some of these horrible diseases off this crabapple. That's it, Sean. Thank you very much.